Buonasera and welcome to Grief Burrito. I'm Harrison.
And I'm Jordan.
And today we've got a classic burrito setup. It's just me, it's just Jordan, and one old guest. But he's not an old guest. He's Gary from the TECHCOM 2029, the Terminator fan game that we played. It was last year, wasn't it, Jordan?
I think it was, yeah. Is he a young boy if he's not an old guest?
I don't even know. I don't even know his age. I've not even asked. I don't think it's polite to ask a lady his age. So all I know is that the game has come a long way. There's been a lot of changes. There's a lot of advancements. So we thought it'd be good to get him on the show to discuss the game. So
The game.
Jordan from the future. The game. Play the intro music.
Hit it!
Hi, welcome to episode 103 of Grief Burrito. This is your first time. We're a comedy, gaming, movie, and entertainment podcast. I'm Harrison. He's Jordan. And
I'm Jordan.
Yeah, he's Jordan. I'm Jordan. Everybody's Jordan. And you may have just heard that we have an extra voice on the show today. That is Gary. Would you like to say hello to the listeners and the viewers as well?
Hello, listeners and viewers of Grief Burrito. It's good to be here.
Thank you very much. So to give our listeners a bit of background on what we're going to be talking about, it's Terminator. That's like, as much as I can sum it up, it's an amazing franchise that everybody knows about. It's one of the best action, sci-fi, horror, like hodgepodge franchises that everybody loves, and it's a big deal. And you have been, along with your team, working on a fan game which is called TECHCOM 2029.
Right.
And I can't remember when we came across it, Jordan. Can you remember when it was that I messaged you about it? It was quite a while ago, wasn't it?
It was a long time, but I'll have a quick check, to be fair. I feel like I should have done this prep previously.
Yeah.
But that's okay. We're here now.
We're in the time loop that is the lockdown, so time doesn't really exist right now. We just know it was a long time ago.
No.
And we ended up messaging you. I can't remember was it you that I spoke to, Gary, or was it someone else in your team?
I think initially you spoke to Andre, who does the music. I think. Don't quote me on that. And then he mentioned that you guys have got a podcast, and at the time we were actually looking for people to try our very basic, I suppose, alpha demo, if you could even call it an alpha. Just to get people, interested and get it out there that we're actually doing this. Because I mean, if I can tell you the story about how this all came together. I mean,
please do.
This was someone called James Town who he's a hell of a talented guy. He was doing this in his spare time, and it was just so good that I happened to stumble across it one day. He did a single interview, and I thought, oh my God, this is amazing. This is what Terminator fans have been wanting for years, because we all know about the disappointment of the recent installments. You've got Dark Fate is the latest one. And one of the things that I've always had in the back of my mind, being a huge Terminator fan, was the easiest story that they never told was the prequel, because it just finishes the whole time loop thing. And when I saw this work that James was doing visually, I was just blown away, because it was so accurate and it just looked like Jim Cameron put it all together. So I couldn't find any other information online about it, so I got a bit frustrated. And I eventually tracked James down, and I said, look, I think this is fantastic. More people need to know about it. I'll set you up a social media presence if you're interested. And James was interested, and it sort of went from there. And I said, look, I'll put 50 quid into just, advertising it on Facebook. And then we started to get a few people interested, and then it went from there. And then we got to the point where we had a bit of an alpha demo. We wanted YouTubers such as yourselves, and just to try it out, and again just to get people to have a look and see what it is that James was doing, because it was really, really good stuff. And then, even though it was just James, and he had a couple of his friends, he had Josh and Tyler, who were doing great 3D art and rigging and all that kind of stuff. Andre came on board, whose music is just out of this world good. I mean, I've heard stuff that hasn't been released yet, and it's just really fantastic. And I offered to do the social media stuff and do a bit of the story. Like I said, the story is the easiest one to tell, because everyone knows what the ending is, right? There'll be no surprises with what the ending is, but the question is, how do you get there? All right. So one of the things was things that are mentioned in passing in Terminator 1 and Terminator 2 that you don't really think about will actually hopefully make more sense once we tell the story that we want to tell. So it sort of snowballed from there, and we got other people in. We've got a guy called Ryan Crosby who's doing our character artwork, and same with Patrick Johnson. He's been doing character
They're brilliant,
artwork.
by the way.
Absolutely
Brilliant.
fantastic. And then we had someone that Andre knew, a guy called Rick. He's done some stuff that we haven't released yet. That it's just Skynet environment stuff, and it's just out of this world good.
Amazing.
So we've there's other people on the team as well, but it's just snowball, and that's got to the point where I said we need to do something with this. And James was actually the one who he actually came and said, "There's this competition," and I had a look, and I looked at the form that we needed to fill out to enter it, and I just spent like 2 hours late at night just going through the form and making sure that we had everything. And if we didn't, I would, create it with the help of the guys on the team, and we got a successful entry. And I say successful because there was 550 entries, and we're down to the last 155. They call that the quarterfinals. So,
Oh, wow.
We've got what we want out of it straight away. We're just getting noticed, and we just want to do this properly. We want to go out and buy the license. We want to go out and get a publishing deal. Is that going to happen? We don't know. We haven't had any of those conversations yet, but those are the aspirations for the project, and that's where we sort of are now.
Right. Okay. I mean, it's amazing that you've got. I mean, you've done great work. From what we saw early on, me and Jordan were already impressed. Like
At the end of 2019, it was.
Is that when it was?
2019.
Right. So yeah, it was quite a while back then. And I remember the first things we saw of it, like the first cutscene of when the game is introduced when it comes on. I wasn't sure if I was seeing footage from the film or from a game. Like, it's the atmosphere and the visuals of it, you have absolutely nailed.
Yeah.
Like, it is perfect. And the people I've spoken to about this over Reddit and other social media posts, they all absolutely agree that you've made something absolutely amazing. And you touched on something then that I wanted to ask about anyway, is like, when you're going to buy the licensing, how does that even work? Like, do you know the prices of like buying a license for Terminator?
Well, we've done some research into that.
Okay.
We probably ourselves wouldn't be. It would probably, that would be the publisher's cost, and that's part of the investment pitch, that we would put a pitch deck together and say, this is for the quality of the game. If you go out and buy the licenses for X amount of dollars, and then give us X amount of dollars to finish the thing, then we could have a game on our hands. But that's all pie in the sky stuff. It's what we want to do. Whether it comes to pass, I don't know. But the one thing that we did learn from the whole license discussion is that Arnold Schwarzenegger's license is totally separate. He owns it. He controls it. So even if we were to buy the Terminator license, that doesn't come with Arnold. We'd have to, speak to Arnold's people. So that may be a stumbling block down the line. But we can work around that. I don't think it's not like a showstopper. It's not like we have to have Arnold in the game. But we have to see what happens on that front.
Yeah, I mean, that's something you can work around. I mean, it's like if you're set at the point where they're only using the T-800 skeletons.
Yeah.
Even in the last cutscene, you could just see the figure from the back. You don't have to see his face. Or we'll get in contact. We'll give Arnold a ring. We'll sort it out. He's a good mate of ours.
It could be another buff man in the background.
Yeah, just some other buff guy, I'm sure Skynet were pumping out all these Austrian bodybuilders at the time to blend in with 1984.
That's the thing. You got to remember that Arnold was an 800 series Terminator, but his likeness, if you will, was a 101 model. So there's probably a 102, a 103, a 104. There's probably a model that looks like me. So I don't know. We'll have to see. But it's there's a lot of things that fans probably don't realize until you actually look into this stuff. That it's interesting. It's like a rabbit hole.
Yeah, I bet. Because I didn't realize that when the actual handoff changed to Sky, because Skydance own Terminator now, right?
Skylines own the license for Terminator Salvation, Genesis, and Dark Fate.
Right. Okay.
And if they wanted to create a new movie, I think they within the rights to do that. They don't own the license for the first two movies.
Yeah, that's still James Cameron, right?
It's Studio Canal that own the license at the moment.
Really?
Oh, right. Okay.
The whole thing about Jim Cameron, he in the US, there's like a law that the rights go back to him after a certain time. But I wouldn't begin to know exactly what that entails, whether it's to create new movies or his old stuff. I don't know. It's very, very complicated, the whole history of the Terminator licensing, which you're probably aware.
Yeah.
And me and James Cameron, we're not on first name terms yet, so I can't give him a ring and ask
Me and
him.
Jimmy.
Me and Jimmy, yeah. But if that ever happens, it's probably one of the first questions I'll ask him.
Right. Cool. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, like, where did your sort of love start with the whole franchise, and which film did you see first? Because, like, for me, it was Terminator 2, and that was what started it all for me. But where did you start with, like, this sort of stuff?
Terminator 2. So I remember I came home from primary school, and there was like 3 VHS tapes on the top of the fridge. I've got like this vivid memory, and one of them was Terminator 2. I can't remember what the other one was, Cape Fear or something. And it was some tapes that someone my dad worked with had, given him to lend or what have you. And I watched this Terminator 2, and I was like, this is amazing. And my mother at the time was like, you shouldn't be watching this. And I just didn't care.
I'm sorry, Gary. I'm so glad you said that, because we have this recurring thing on our podcast where, and Jordan, you know this, like, there's a collection of films that everyone saw way before they should have.
Yeah.
Robocop is one, and Terminator 2 is the other.
Yeah. And I watched this, and it's like it sort of became a forbidden fruit. It's like I shouldn't be watching it, and it came on Sky Movies, and I remember I put a tape in the video recorder and set it to tape at like 9 p.m. or whatever it was, and I was in bed. And my mother, she didn't realise, so she was just watching the TV. But in the background, I was taping this Terminator 2 movie. So yeah, I got it. But then I became obsessed with actually seeing the first one. And that was even harder for me to get, because, I mean, that's another story. That was on, I think it was Channel 4. And it was in the TV guide. You remember those days when you had to actually look at what was coming on
the
TV?
guide,
I do. Back in the day.
And I said, I want to tape this movie, and she was like, no, you can't. It's rated 18. You can't do it. It's not for you. And I was like, well, that's bullshit. I want to see it. And
shut up, Mom. This is bullshit.
Yeah. And she said, well, I'll check with your dad. I was like, well, yeah, but my dad doesn't get in until like after the movie's over. And then my dad came in and he said, yeah, it would have been fine anyway. And I said, see, it would have been fine. But by that point, I missed it. There was no catch-up TV then or whatever. But I eventually got a copy of the first movie. And that's actually my favourite, to be honest, because of how great it is.
No way.
I mean, I love Terminator 2, don't get me wrong. I consider it, a very important part of the whole story. But the first Terminator film for me there's just something about it,
They're very, very different movies. And like, a lot of people don't seem to realize that Terminator 1 is, at its heart, it's like a horror slasher movie.
It is, yeah.
Like, it's a B-movie slasher movie that was filmed pretty much illegally on the streets of LA, wasn't it? Like, James Cameron didn't have any permission to film at night sometimes, and the bit where I think Arnold punched through a car window.
That's right, yeah.
That wasn't their car. They just did it. And it's
you
like,
are kidding
me. What the fuck are you doing?
Punched through a guy's window.
Honestly. Yeah, they broke into a car.
James
they
Cameron's
just did it. And then
just punch through a window. Don't worry, I've set it all up. It's fine. He punches through it and he's like,
it's fine.
Run! Everyone just legs it.
But to be fair, if you came out of like 7-Eleven and saw Arnie punching through your window, are you going to be like, "Oi, what the fuck are you doing?" You're going to be like, "Yeah,
carry on, mate."
Yeah, you get in that car.
Yeah, never mind.
But that whole guerrilla, filming stuff that Jim Cameron at the time had to do. He had no money. He hadn't really no recognition. It reminds us of this project that we're doing. So it's there's a lot of parallels there to be drawn, and I think I keep thinking about Jim Cameron's story. If he hadn't took the risk that he did, then we'd never have seen Terminator, and that's kind of what we want to do with this game.
Right.
Totally. And that's a great way to look at it. Sorry, Jordan, what were you going to say there?
My main thinking with this is because Terminator is one of those franchises where they've really not had many great games made out of, like you said, this franchise that has an amazing, just somewhat easy story to tell. Are there any other franchises, like beloved franchises, that you'd kind of look at a game for, or any other ideas you have for?
I think a Robocop game would be good. I don't think we've seen a good Robocop game. I mean, Robocop versus Terminator was probably the most successful. I used to play that all the time as a kid, on the old Mega Drive. And my mother actually, she was a big fan of that one as well. So sometimes I sort of think, why did you stop me watching all these movies? But then you were happy to blow people to bits on a Sega Mega Drive.
It's worse. I'm controlling this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But yeah, a good Robocop game. I mean, the first two Robocop movies. I mean, the first one especially is just fantastic. And I think there could be stories told there. You know, it could even be a prequel story with Murphy, not as a Robocop, just as a cop. You know, he had a background, and I'm sure in between the two movies there was stuff going on. So the possibilities are endless if people put together a story in their head and they've got the skills to put stuff like this together, then, you know, why not? But of course, licensing and cost and stuff, that all, it does become an issue. But I think Robocop, to answer your question, I think it hasn't had a good game in a long, long time.
Yeah.
It does, and we've got the name. It's nice and easy. Just cop.
Just cop.
Exactly.
Yeah.
No, I thought that'd be amazing. I think that's the beauty of some of these films, is that the universe isn't massively expanded on in any way. Like, if they get 2 films out of it and then, like, obviously a reboot, the 2 films that are there that people love, there's loads of gaps you could fill in. There's so much you could do.
Exactly. But I think where film studios fall over, at least in my opinion, is they try too hard and they forget the source material.
Yeah.
I mean, going back to Terminator, that's a prime example, right? I can guarantee you that in our game, the storyline, for whatever flaws it may have in people's minds, it's not going to have alternate timelines and you know, female Terminators from a different, like, timeline and you know, realm and all that sort of stuff. And I think sometimes these movie studios, you just try too hard. Just stick to the source material. Everything that's successful sticks to the source material, you know.
Yeah.
And I saw the new Mortal Kombat trailer for the new movie, and I wasn't impressed because I thought it went too far away from source material. I mean, you got this guy who's an MMA fighter who was never in the original games, and I'm not saying it's not going to be a good movie, but come on, you know, it's like, don't go too far.
Yeah,
otherwise,
but then if you look at stuff like we watched the 1995 Mortal Kombat film last week for last week's episode, and you could say that with that they stuck too fiercely to it. And the same with, like, the Super Mario Brothers movie. They tried to stick all these things in.
The Super Mario movie is nothing like the games.
No. We said when we watched that one, it was like, it was a completely different film that they had tried to shoehorn into being Super Mario. So they put loads of references and tried to link every weird little bit that just didn't make sense.
That's more, they're trying to link something to it. They're trying to retcon something else is the issue there. Personally, I think they're trying to, like, we've got a different movie with Bob Hoskins in it. However, we need a Mario movie because that's big at the minute. And then they just kind of threw it all into whatever this Bob Hoskins fever dream was.
Well, they did that with Mortal Kombat Annihilation. If you remember, like, every character from Mortal Kombat 2 and 3 was sort of shoehorned in.
Yeah, we haven't watched that one yet. I think only Nick's seen that one, hasn't he? So I think we're all going to do a watch through of that if the listeners want us to do that. Jordan doesn't want us to do it
because it's got like a 1-star rating on IMDb.
Yeah, but that might make for a great episode because you'll just rip it to bits.
Could.
It'll just end up with me crying.
It could be good doing it that way.
Rocking back and forth.
That's every episode, Jordan. That's every episode.
Okay.
Yeah, like when you were saying about the different games, like you said about Terminator and Terminator versus Robocop. That's a game that I actually haven't played myself. I know of it and I've seen the comics and stuff. Is there any other games that you played growing up that influenced you now doing what you're doing?
Yeah, Wolfenstein 3D,
Nice,
Doom,
Nice.
nice.
and Duke Nukem 3D. I mean,
Oh my
those
god.
I was a big fan of that era. Of third person shooter. I used to go to a friend's house who had a LAN, and this is like in the mid 90s, mid to late 90s, and it was like
Nice.
we would just have a death match, and we'd be on it for hours, and it's just one of those. It's a lost art, I think. I think now with technology, I think a lot of games are almost like, I don't want to say too polished because it's just the evolution of gaming, but I think
Hmm.
James has done a really good job to sort of have some old school FPS type elements in this Terminator game, like pickups and stuff like that. That I think gamers will enjoy. So it's a bit of a throwback in a few ways. But yeah, those are the ones that really stood out to me in terms of first person shooters. I mean, I played all the Terminator games. I have the
Hmm.
T2 arcade game and the original Terminator game for the Mega Drive, which every so often I still play. For some reason, I just do a playthrough, and it might take me 8 minutes to do the whole thing, but it's just
Well, you
a
are
nostalgia
working on
trip.
a Terminator game, so I'd imagine that's probably
Yeah,
part of the
Yeah, you're
reason.
allowed.
But I think
yeah,
you've made a really good point there, which is games can be a bit too polished. They can look as nice as you want, but if they're not
Hmm.
fun, what's the point? It's like a lot of people
yeah,
had the issue with Death Stranding
Yeah.
in that it's not really a video game; it's a walking simulator. But some people enjoy
Yeah, it's
that.
Amazon.
Yeah, you're playing as pizza delivery guy on his day off, apparently. But it is what it is. If a game's not fun, which even the pre-alpha that we played, which was better than a bunch of or betas have played, if I'm honest with you, that was still fun
Yeah.
to play, even though it was in such an early stage.
yeah,
And I think
yeah.
that's
And it
something
was
And
that's
it was
written.
challenging too.
it's really, really important that it's at least fun, and it looked pretty good as well. So
Yeah,
got everything going for you there.
Pretty good is an
No,
understatement.
wait, yeah. Well, you know me for compliments. Yeah, it looks
Oh,
amazing
yeah,
for what
I
it
know.
is.
yeah.
Yeah.
It does. It's seriously. I can't. The whole team is a talented team, and I can't pick up a 3D rendering artist program and do something, but these guys can, and it really is fantastic. And it without James, there wouldn't be this project because he just decided to do it, and he took so much time and effort to get things accurate. Okay, so if something's off by a millimeter, James will want to go in and correct that, and I think that's commendable.
Yeah,
And I think
It is,
again
yeah.
that's something that's missing today is going back to what I was saying about the source material. It does matter if something is out of place because the fans will pick up on that. The real diehard fans will pick up on that, and I think if we're gonna be an independent gaming studio with not a big budget, I think one of the things that we do have going for us, and it's a unique selling point, is we will make this look accurate as fuck. Forgive my
Yeah,
language.
yeah.
that should be the
Yeah, no,
tagline.
don't worry, you're allowed to swear on here.
I'd love that.
TechCom 2029, accurate as fuck.
Exactly. I think it sounds like it's nice to hear that James isn't getting complacent as well, because a lot of people when they start
Yeah.
projects, no matter what it is, as soon as time starts going on, things just slip. So knowing that or hearing that he's still in that frame of mind where things need to be on point, that's really, really nice to hear. But would you say it sounds a lot more like you guys are kind of a group of friends working on something, opposed to, even though you might not all know each other personally, it sounds like it's a much more friend oriented kind of, we'll make this thing we all really like.
Yeah,
Is that the
and we have,
case?
we have yeah, and exactly that is the case. But we have banter as well, and we've got to know each other, as well as you can
Yeah.
over a group chat. Um, but yeah, I think we've got a pretty good rapport with each other, and the people that have came in recently, they've picked it up and ran with it. Because what I'm doing now is while we are in this competition and we're having all these conversations, is just asking the guys just to build assets build assets in the background, and then that's going to make it much easier when we get further down the line. We can just sort of take all these assets that we've got and stitch them all together into a game, rather than build it chronologically. If we build it an HK tank and a 600 endoskeleton and an 800 endoskeleton, we can just put them all together, and it's not time wasted.
Yeah,
And I think it's going to be more appealing for any publisher to say, look, we've done a lot of the legwork here. Just give us some money to do more.
Yeah. The T800 skeleton that you guys worked on, like, speaking of accuracy, I was following your Facebook group, which if any listeners want to check this out, these guys are on Facebook, you're on Twitter and Instagram, is that correct?
Yeah, and Instagram and YouTube, yeah.
And YouTube as well. Okay, cool. When you'd posted, because when we played it, you didn't have the T800 skeleton in yet, and you were using
that's right, yeah.
Just like a chrome man model.
Yeah.
But even then, even with the pose on the title screen holding the gun, like, it completely sold it anyway. I was like, okay, this is pretty cool.
Yeah.
And then seeing what the artist had done, you could tell the amount of detail that had gone in, because there was a conversation going on about the way the skeleton looked between two of the different films and the slight differences, and which one you were going with. And that was so cool to see, about the attention to detail. So, like, I'm so glad that you guys have gone that far.
Which that got me. I was like, oh, that is terrifying.
Yeah. So the irises dilate, don't they? Is that what it was? And it changes focus when it looks at you or something?
Yeah, well, it's sort of the eyes. It's a bit like when, in the first movie where Arnold's in he's in the car and he's looking for Reese and Sarah, and he's got his head like a surveillance camera, so his eyes move first and then the head follows. Well, we've got that as well with the endo, because the endo is essentially what Arnold was in the first movie. I think there is the dilation in the irises and stuff. I'd have to double check that. I'm sure the guys know, but sometimes they'll just try something out. All right, so Josh might try something out with some of the rigging that he's doing, and it works, and it's like, yeah, that's fantastic.
Nice. So where's Josh come from then? Has he got a background in? Has he done other games, or is this his first thing that he's working on?
I think he's actually a friend of James, and I think he's done some stuff in uni, but I'm not exactly sure of his working background. I just know he's a talented guy.
That's all you need to know sometimes.
Yeah, there's no one on this team that isn't talented, and it shows. And if anyone wants to join the team, it's like, well, we can't just take any Tom, Dick, or Harry. It's like they've got to have they've got to prove that they're capable of doing it. And when we reached out to Patrick, that's because we've seen his Arnold model, and it was just like, that's so bang on that we need to get him on the team. And then the Reese model that Ryan's doing is just
that's incredible. Honestly,
yeah,
it is, yeah.
And that Ryan's good at he'll ask the team for feedback as well. So he won't just say, "This is it, I've finished." He'll say, "What do you think? Could I slightly change the eyes here? Could I change the expression here? Could I do this? Could I do that?" And everyone will chip in with some suggestions, and he'll go and do it. So he's another talented guy.
Amazing.
I'm just saying it's coming along, and it's the team that we've got. I'm so proud of them to have got this far, and to enable me to actually fill out a form to enter a competition is all down to those guys. It's not me. I'm just doing the legwork. Those guys are the ones that really have put this together.
So what have you got like planned going forward then? Is there any like features coming that you're wanting to implement? Because I saw on your social media of the week that you've actually introduced a driving section, almost like if you think like Halo when you're driving a Warthog is. What's that section, if you can tell us anything about that?
That's just another element of gameplay where you can get into a car and then you switch to a third person view and you drive it across the landscapes, and you're avoiding flying hunter killers and all that kind of good stuff. There may be a bit of story there as well. That's
okay,
but that's all hasn't sort of been finalized. But if you go back to the first movie where Reese is actually dreaming, If you remember, he loses
the car gets tipped.
his friend. The car gets tipped and it's on fire, and then he wakes up from his dream. But what happened next? How did Reese get out of that situation?
Right.
Those are hopefully
okay.
the questions that we'll answer in the story. But again, right now, in terms of plans, it's just building the assets. So get the car ready, get the driving ready, get your Reese model and all that sort of stuff, and then we can really start building a good game. And if we can get some sort of publishing deal, even better. It would just make things easier and yeah, fuck it, I fancy a career change anyway. So
So I have
Amazing,
to
man.
ask,
Yeah, well,
if let's say you went to a publisher and they were like, right, you've got an unlimited budget, you can have as many devs as you want, and you've got as much time as you want. Is there anything you personally, when making this game, if you had the choice, you just go, right, we need this added, I want some of this, what would you have?
yeah, multiplayer Resistance versus Skynet.
Okay.
People have been
Ooh, that'd be good.
crying out for that. One of the things we do notice as well is all of the comments on social media. There's a trend, right? People want to see the same things. We'd love to do a full on multiplayer experience. Also like a real good experience, a bit like the T2 arcade game, stuff like that. Just to add more depth. And if that's within our reach, we'd love to do that. So if I have an unlimited budget, yeah, I would. If I had an unlimited budget, I'd fly to LA, and buy the rights off Jim Cameron and do it all myself. But unfortunately, I don't have that budget, and he probably wouldn't.
Sadly, I don't have £40 billion. Like that multiplayer would be interesting, though. Would you have it more of like just like 5v5 team fight, or would you have it more kind of asymmetric with Skynet being so?
Yeah, think about the
like 4v1.
Well, yeah, you could do something like that, but I think as from a standard multiplayer deathmatch, even if there's only like 5 players in the lobby, I think in the background you've got to have hundreds and hundreds of resistance fighters, like controlled by, AI. I mean, go back to the opening scene of T2, right? And you've got all those rockets going off and lasers flying around and all that kind of. There's loads of men running with all the guns and all that kind of stuff. I think if a proper big battlefield, with all sorts going on, and that would be incredible. That would be really good.
Can you imagine that with like persistent corpses and stuff like that? That'd be so sick.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you could choose whichever side that you want, obviously, because people will want to play as a Terminator. I mean, that's just one of the things, and that's one of the things that actually Terminator Resistance, I thought, did really well. They had a DLC, and they made the best out of a difficult situation. I think because it's how do you're a Terminator, you're pretty much indestructible. How do you make that fun? And I think they did a good job because they said, okay, if you're going to be a Terminator, you've got to do it in one sitting. There's no like respawning or extra lives or anything of that nature. You just go ahead and do it. I thought that was pretty good how they did that, and whether we would have something like that, I don't know. Time will tell. But I don't want to sort of say, yeah, we're just going to have this little game and it's going to be one level long and it's going to look good. I think it's the project. It deserves more than that. I think the effort these guys have put in deserves more than that, and I really want to see this grow and succeed and be, a real player, no pun intended, in the games industry.
Yeah, I think anyone who's seen it would agree that it deserves quite a lot from especially anyone who's a Terminator fan. Look at I've only seen last year Terminator 1 for the first time, but I saw it in the cinema, which was pretty nice.
Yeah, it's cool in the cinema.
It was so good.
Back.
But it's that thing of when you look at it, you can tell the amount of care and attention that's going into it, and it deserves that kind of lease at life. It needs that.
It needs to be more than some underground unlicensed game that 50 people may play. It needs to be, it needs to be what it is, and that's in my opinion, it's a AAA quality title, or at least has the potential to be.
Yeah, I'd say so.
It totally does. Yeah, it does. I mean, just from sheer visuals alone, you're already going you're maxing the AAA quality.
Yeah.
And the only thing I've really seen from people asking on on Reddit and stuff is, what's the gameplay going to be like? Well, we can see on the alpha what some sections were like. We know that it's going to be first person shooter and that kind of thing. Is there any other, like Jordan said about the different sections that you'd like to add? Is there any sections that you are planning to add? Is this things that you are working towards now, or is that something you
Yeah.
can't say yet?
Well, a bit of both, but I will say that there's a puzzle solving element as well. So it's not just going to be all run and gun. There may be
Okay.
a time where Reese needs to solve a puzzle in order to get to the next room. That kind of gameplay. But as well, going back to the first movie, there's a horror element. Okay, so
I was just thinking that, yeah.
people who probably want to get chased by Terminators.
Yeah, we want scary.
Yeah, and it's the silent stuff. And there's actually Andre, who's again doing the music and the sound design. He came up it was a few months ago now, but he come up with some great ideas about using like white noise. So while you're playing it, you don't actually realize it's there, and you're in this dark corridor, and then the white noise stops, and then your brain actually it actually realizes, oh shit, something's stopped. That kind of stuff like that, where and then suddenly there's a 800 series Terminator up your arse, But there's a lot of pictures and ideas and stuff like that. But I think we can really do well. I'm just trying really hard at the moment just to get our name out there and sort of get some traction in terms of finding a publisher and finding investment as well. Someone who bought a lot of Bitcoin a long time ago who may want to help us out.
If I'd spare with any of mine, I'd give you some. Trust me.
Well, thank you. I would be the same. But
yeah, man. I mean, you're going about it in the right way. Like, all I can say is looking at it from, like, I consider myself, a Terminator super fan. Like, I absolutely love it. It's been one of my favorite franchises since I was a little kid. I have loads of stuff from it. I've got all the films, even though the later ones weren't great. It was still just a cool thing, And I think that you are taking the care and attention, and it comes across. It totally comes across to the fans. And I think if you continue on this route, like pointing out that you are making this for the fans and for players who want something that will pay respect to the franchise that they absolutely love, I don't see how they wouldn't rally around the project. Like, I'm willing to do whatever I can. I talk about this all the fucking time to people, and you've got our support. Like, that's why we wanted to talk to you. We want to let people know about the project because we want to see it out.
Yeah.
Like, me and Jordan want to play this thing. We want to get it.
Yeah, well, we appreciate that, and one of the things that we've been quite overwhelmed with is the social media response, and we know that there's something there. There's something that the consumer is willing to buy. I mean, a lot of people have said, "Can we give you money? Can you set up a GoFundMe and all that sort of stuff?"
Yeah, Kickstarter and all that.
Yeah, and we appreciate the gesture because the gesture is really nice that people want to part with their hard-earned cash to help us. But one of the things we've been conscious not to do is accept that kind of thing because that could make things get ugly if we'll be probably classed as making money off an IP that we don't have the right to make money off. And we don't want to do
That's
that.
Right,
we don't want to get into these legal troubles. And that's again why we went back to if we haven't got the license, let's say how do we go about getting the license? Okay, we need an investment. Okay, how do we go about getting investment? Where do we need to do? What's this competition? Well, let's enter that. We can start speaking to people. So yeah, I think it's slow and steady wins the race. We get asked all the time about a release date. There's no point in giving a release date because we don't fully know what the scope is of what we have, and we want to do it. We want to do it right. And I know it's frustrating because people want to get their hands on it, but it's not ready. It's not ready for people to get their hands on yet. It's I think James got a lot of pride in the work that he does, and I think he wouldn't want someone or he wouldn't want players playing like an early alpha that's got the odd bug in, and where some of his ideas haven't been implemented, that kind of thing. So that's why we've been conscious not to release anything. As frustrating as it is, we want to do this properly, and that's gonna take time. It's gonna take patience.
That's understandable. I mean, like that's something, Jordan. Like we've both seen this on our YouTube channel because we're still getting comments every week, asking where they can play the alpha, and we're like, we can't send it to you. I don't even think Jordan's got it anymore, and it's not out there anymore because they're at a point where they don't need testers for that thing. They're bringing in new ideas, and it doesn't feel good to show someone an unfinished product. It would be like a musician showing someone an album that hasn't been mastered yet.
Yeah, exactly.
It's not going to be right, and it'll sour the experience if you play it in a bad state. You know, look at Cyberpunk.
Just gonna say.
It came out, wasn't finished, and now everyone's soured on it. You know, you can make all the promises you want.
I think you guys on the video, you were trying to shoot the hunter killer with a shotgun. And I think someone went on a big rant about, oh my god, how unrealistic! You couldn't shoot a tank with a shotgun, and it's like, yeah, but we just put the gun in just to test it. You know, it's not like
it's not a finished product. Chill out, kind of thing.
And it was just like, come on. I mean, it's just one of those things, but. The whole point of putting the shotgun in was for you guys to see it and pick it up and shoot it, and you could hear the reload sound and stuff. That's what we were looking for. We weren't looking for. We know that you're not going to take down a tank with a shotgun blast or two. Not unless you've got a cheat mode put in or something like that.
Yeah, you got God mode or something. Yeah.
It's refreshing to hear that from you guys, though, that you don't want to, obviously, regardless of the legal implications, you don't want to just be taking money off people and getting into that kind of situation. You care enough to say, like, right, we don't want to do something until we're ready. Because that's all you hear nowadays. That's it. Like Cyberpunk, prime example of, like, it just wasn't ready. But I suppose...
Yeah, and it was the publishers pushing it out,
and
wasn't
that's it. And at this point, you guys could get approached by a publisher, and you might not be happy, and you might just be able to say, well, wait, we'll just come back. That's the thing you've got, and I appreciate that you're all kind of treating it with that level of respect.
Precisely.
Yeah.
Precisely. I think that's what we try to do, and it's good that it's not lost on you, so I suppose we're doing something right.
Oh, definitely.
No, it comes across. It really does. And like speaking of the fans, we've got a couple of questions from Reddit and a couple of comments, and I think we should move on to those as we're actually coming up towards the end of the episode already.
Sorry,
time flies.
That's how much
carry on.
No, don't be sorry. This is how fast podcasts go. You sort of lose yourself in them. So our first comment comes from Craig Goose, which is Craig and Goose. He's splurting there. He says... he always thought a Terminator game could be done like Alien Isolation. A question I would like to ask is, would there be any part of the game set in 1984, or is it purely just the future war section?
Alien Isolation was actually an inspiration, I think, for James to start this. So I think there's going to be a lot of those elements. I don't know. Maybe you'll have to wait and see.
Yeah. I mean, I think maybe he's seen the image that you posted of Kyle Reese in his 1984 costume and his Future War costume. So maybe he's just gleaning information.
Yeah, I mean, I'll tell you straight off that's simply because Ryan just decided to do both. But would I like to sneak into Tech Noir's Kyle Reese and then wait at the bar for a big hulking figure, like a Austrian bodybuilder to walk in and then shoot him?
Hey,
yeah, I'd love that.
What you do on the weekend, Gary, you can do what you like. I don't mind, baby.
But yeah, I mean, the possibilities are endless, right? The primary focus is telling the future war story. But if we do do well, what's to say we couldn't do a DLC? I don't know.
That's the wonder of time travel games. You don't have to have flashbacks. You can have flash forwards. You can do what you like when you're making the game.
I love the idea of Gary now going back and talking to everyone and being like, why did we put up the picture of both sets of clothes? Who did this?
Yeah, man. Yeah. Well, I'm glad that you guys are taking reference from Alien Isolation, because that is a great way that they did.
Amazing movie game.
Did a movie game well, and it made the alien terrifying. It made it scary, and it wasn't like Colonial Marines when you were blasting through waves and you could kill them really easy. And well, we actually know Gary Napper, who is the designer of the Alien. He actually made the Alien AI. I met him at university in Manchester. And maybe I'll send him you details, and you can have a chat about how he designed the Alien and that sort of thing.
Hey,
maybe he could give you some pointers on designing the Terminator.
If he can help, brilliant. Yeah, I'm more than welcome. I'd love to have a conversation with him.
Yeah. I mean, he's working for Supermassive Games, I think, down south at the moment.
All right, yeah.
So I was talking to him about a production role before. So he's working with Man with Medan and what was the other dark thing? It's some dark universe they're doing, aren't they? That kind of thing. So Dark Pictures, that's it. Thank you, Jordan.
You're welcome.
Our next comment, that comes from Slow Crates, and he says, man, this game nails the vibe even more than the other one. It looks perfect. The color, the lasers, the rubble. How is the gameplay, though? The mechanics, etc. Oh, and the story. I'm super interested in this game. So we've kind of got a bit into it. Is there anything else you wanted to add about the gameplay or the mechanics? Maybe talk about the mechanics of what you actually do when you're playing.
The mechanics are always being improved upon, but it acts like a old school first person shooter. But yeah, James is always doing stuff and making tweaks and all that kind of stuff. I think people will be fine with the mechanics of the game. I think it's pretty straightforward. It's easy to pick up and play. The story was, well, again, we all know what the ending's going to be. The ending is going to be with at least Kyle Reese going through the time displacement equipment. What happens after that and up to that, I don't want to really divulge.
Yeah, keep that bit secret, keep it juicy, keep it secret and safe, as Gandalf says.
But again, look, there's going to be no surprise. You're not going to see like divergent timelines and stuff, just shit like that.
Nothing that'll make you sigh is the most important thing, I think, to point out here.
Making time travel simple. That's what Gary's all about.
That should be the tagline.
Simple
I
time
need
travel.
that in. That needs to be on a billboard somewhere.
We could do that. Yeah, you just do it. Work it in there, Gary. See what you can do. Our next comment comes from Lector Sandberg. And he says, like others have said before me, this game nails it, all in capitals. Resistance was good, but this feels real, in quotes. And I can't wait to give it a spin. So that wasn't really a question. It was just a comment. He just wanted me to let you know that you've absolutely fucking nailed it. So well done, you guys.
Thank you. But it's comments like that they actually do help, because they show us that we're actually doing something right.
Yeah, it shows you're on the right track. Because, I mean, the internet is a wonderful place that will sometimes not always tell you when you're doing something right. And that is a wonder with game design. Like, this is something me and Jordan have spoke about before. A lot of the time when you're doing things right and something works, people don't say anything because it's working as it should. And the only time they'll say something is when something is working like it shouldn't, like it's fucking shit, or you're flying through walls and that sort of stuff. So it's great that people are giving you the positive comments, because it's needed. It really, really is. Like you said, you're on the right track. You really do. And I think that pretty much wraps it up for today, as we are approaching an hour. Is there anything else you wanted to just add to any of the listeners or any of the viewers about the project, Gary?
Yeah. First of all, thank you for your support. It's really appreciated. We really like reading the comments, and the feedback, the positive feedback and the constructive feedback. Keep doing what you're doing, and please be patient. We're trying our best to do the right thing by Terminator, which for so long hasn't been done. So just hang tight. We're going to do our best.
Well done, man. Thank you. That was beautiful.
It was. And a tear to my robotic eyes.
Oh, those red eyes. You chop it out in the mirror now. So you can find me on all socials at Haswild, and you can find this podcast at Grief Burrito absolutely everywhere. Jordan, where can they find you?
You can find me at the Mr. John Core.
You can indeed. And for the other two hosts who aren't here, you can find Nick at Ruthlessly Ruffles, and you can find Lulu at Lulu_Pew on Twitch. And Gary, do you want to shout out any of the socials for TECHCOM, anywhere they can find you or ask any questions?
Yeah, so on Twitter we're at TECHCOM Game. and Facebook is at TECHCOM 2029, as is Instagram, and as is YouTube. And myself personally, I'm at Gary Dinsdale on Twitter.
Amazing. Wonderful. Thank you very much. And remember, guys, if you're watching this on YouTube, please whap the like button, subscribe, and all that shit you know from everybody else's channel. And if you're listening to just the audio of this podcast, please leave a review wherever you're listening and a 5-star rating. And you better be listening on Cephalopod, otherwise Pep is going to be mad. So let's get out of here. Thank you, guys, and we'll see you
so much
next week.
Cheers.
Thanks,
bye.
guys.
See ya.
Bye.